All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unleash, the most legit Celtics podcast in the game. And I mean, we're a few weeks into the offseason now, and we still just have so much to talk about. First, post Kemba Walker trade show, so we're getting into all that. Did I say that right? We're going to get into all of that today on the show. But yeah, before we do, I'm going to ask you guys, please hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. I know you're watching. You see, you probably didn't even notice until I said it here. I got this burn on my lip. Clam chowder accident, all right? I'll give myself a womp for it, but you're going to have to deal with it if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Make sure you are following and subscribe there as well. But yeah, hit that big red subscribe button. It helps me out a ton, and it's free for you to do, and you'll never miss an episode. So be sure to hit that button. And I want to let you guys know, we haven't played voicemails in a couple episodes, but if you guys do want to leave a voicemail for next show, topic idea, would you rather type of scenario, anything like that, a lot going on in the Celtics world right now. Please leave a voicemail at 617-302-6363. And honestly, I always say it. Feel free to shout yourself out what you got going on. If you have a podcast out there that you want to shout out and try and, get more listeners and whatnot, shout yourself out. You provide me with content via voicemail. I'm happy to, do my part, I guess, and let you have your shout out. So yeah, let's get right into the episode. First topic, like I said, the thing that we have to talk about, and we're going to talk about, is this Kemba Walker trade, which I think I talked about it on last episode. Hell, Kemba Walker's name was in the title in last episode. It was inevitable that Kemba Walker was going to be traded in my mind. It's something that needed to happen. It sucks because we all wish Kemba Walker worked out here, right? But it was inevitable that it was going to happen. And, and I've talked to a few people too to just try and make sure that this is true, because we've seen it on social media for a while. And it's true. I've talked to a few people and said, did the Celtics try and trade Kemba, and did he hear about it? And everyone just like, yeah. Like, that was a thing. So take it as a fact. Kemba Walker knew the team was potentially trying to move on from him. And then he, what player wouldn't start to sour on a team if he figured out that they were moving on from him or didn't need him anymore, or, were trying to send him elsewhere because they weren't happy with him. You don't trade a guy if you're happy with him. So that's just black and white. Boom. Here's proof in the pudding, line in the sand. Things weren't working out. The relationship had soured, and it just makes total sense that they needed to move Kemba Walker. But another thing, and I said it last episode too, this was not going to be a blockbuster trade. No Damian Lillard, no Russell Westbrook, or anything like that. They ended up getting Al Horford, Moses Brown. They traded Kemba in the 16th overall pick, and I think maybe they got a second round. I kind of forget at this point. But honestly, the focus here, Al Horford and Moses Brown. I told you guys you were trading Kemba for, who you consider a horse. You're trading him for ponies, right? And you kind of got that in return. I do like the return. We're going to get into both Al and Moses Brown in just a second. But you got to understand that if you thought Kemba was going to be involved in a blockbuster trade, you weren't thinking it through. No team was going to give up an absolute superstar. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, anything like that. No team is about to give up someone like that for a deteriorating, broken Kemba Walker. So why don't we get into sort of breaking down the two guys that they got back, because I've seen a lot of, a lot of people on Twitter excited about Al Horford's return, okay? Actually, before we break down Al Horford and Moses Brown, I do want to kind of say, too, that nothing they got in return is as valuable or would have been, as good if Kemba Walker just worked out. Like, if he was supposed to be, or if he was what he was supposed to be, the all-star that he was year one, and continue to do that through the entirety of his contract, that's the best return on investment for Kemba. Not trading him for Al Horford and Moses Brown. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's good that, they were able to move him and dump the money and get a couple, capable guys in return. But, best case scenario was Kemba Walker working out here, not trading Kemba Walker. So keep that in mind. And also, if I were to grade the trade, I'm not going to say that this is something that now puts them in a better position to win a championship next year. It just doesn't. It's a necessary move, but and we're going to talk about it later on in the show, there's got to be more to come down the pipeline here in terms of moves that Brad is going to make. But we'll keep that for, probably towards the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. But let's get into Al Horford, and then we'll get into Moses Brown afterwards. Just talking about what they're going to actually contribute to this team, because the Al Horford one, I think people are severely missing on what Al Horford, is expected to do here. Everyone's saying that, Al Horford can stretch the floor, he can facilitate, he can pass. Al Horford, love the guy. I do. He was a great Celtic here. He was kind of like the definition of what a Celtic should be. Unselfish, just wanted to get the win, didn't care about the stats, whatever. He is so washed up. He's a washed up player. What he's going to provide is, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, good minutes off the bench, or maybe if he starts, he plays 15 to 20 minutes and doesn't play. He'll provide that, but he's going to provide the veteran presence. He is going to be another big body. Al Horford's going to be able to do a little bit of everything, but most importantly to me, he's going to be the veteran presence. He's going to be a familiar face, and he's going to be a really respectable guy. Al Horford is just an all-around sort of vet that you now have. That's what I'm looking forward to out of Al Horford. It's not the fact that he can stretch the floor and hit a long mid-range or a three-point shot. It's not the fact that he can cover Joel Embiid still, or that he can pass out of the post. If any of that, is a fraction of what it was when he was here a few years back, then that's great. But to expect it out of Al Horford, like a guy that just sat out for this year, come on. So leave the expectations low on Al Horford in terms of actual performance. They got him to be the veteran leader that they need. They didn't get Al Horford to try and put them over the top in terms of winning a championship now. Okay? And that's, if you're a Horford fan, I get it. That sucks. I'm really not ragging on Horford. I'm just being realistic. If he goes and blows my expectations out of the water, then that's great. Like, hooray. Love it. But the guy just has, he didn't even play for the Thunder last year. He sat out, right? Al Horford's more or less a presence than he is going to be a player for this team. But Moses Brown, the other guy they got, and if you guys flash back and remember, we saw the potential. Us Boston fans saw the potential of Moses Brown when they played the Celtics. He had 17 and 19 at the half, I believe. The kid's got potential. Very big time, big shot blocking, athletic rebounder, can dunk on someone. He's the potential piece here. What you got in that, and anyone that says, they traded the 16th pick, you didn't need to do that. Moses Brown is better than he's 21 years old, I think. He's better than anyone you were going to get at the 16th pick, and he's only a couple years older. So that's how I'm viewing getting Moses Brown. You traded the 16th pick, but consider that drafting the 16th pick. Oh, it's a deep draft, Evan. Give me a break. Come on. And also, he's a Robert Williams backup. Think about all those injured nights we missed Robert Williams, the guy that truly broke out this year, but really wasn't dependable. This kid, if he can do, 75% of what Robert Williams was doing, he's going to be a sufficient backup when we need that sort of high flyer, alley-oop catcher, shot blocking big, because it's not going to be Al Horford. Tristan Thompson proves he's not really the rim protector that this team needs. Grant Williams. So when Robert Williams isn't there, they're going to have that athletic big. But, to be completely honest, Moses Brown, I'm not on the hype this kid's going to start for this team, but he is, he could be a huge part of this team. He's a project, but if he works out and the project goes well, I think it could be good. I'm really, really excited to see what he can do. And I just hope he gets playing time. He's the type of player that they could trade for, and if Brad Stevens was still the coach, I don't know if we would see him play a lot. Hopefully this new coach, whether it's Udoka or anything, I hope that they do see that Moses Brown, you just got to give him a chance. Play, because that's how he's going to learn. We saw it with Robert Williams. Let's try and do the same thing with Brown. We'll see. Also, Moses Brown, Jaylen Brown, we're going to see a lot of Brown to Brown action, which is going to be great. So there's where I come out on the trade. Like I said, Kemba Walker. The best case scenario is if Kemba Walker were to work out and be, the second/third option here and the veteran leader and sort of a, unspecified captain figure, that type of thing. That ain't happening. No, he's gone. That ain't happening. That would have been the best case scenario. This trade isn't, a blockbuster. It's not a trade that's going to put the Celtics over the top, but it was a necessary one to do. They weren't going to get any better with Kemba with only 1 year left on the deal, too. It's a salary dump. And if the relationship truly had soured, which I feel like I've done my due diligence and have confirmed that this relationship was soured, then they needed to trade him. And the return, in my opinion, was all right. Like, I'll give it an all right rating. You get Moses Brown, who's the project, and you get sort of the right here, right now leader in Al Horford. And it's not like they just got an Al Horford type player. Al Horford's been on the Celtics before. He's been in the organization. He's a respected guy. So that's where that kind of comes in. It's not like, oh, well, we rolled the dice and thought Kemba Walker's going to be the leader. No, we know Al Horford's a leader. So that's good. Like, that's a plus. So that's where I'm taking it out of Al Horford. But again, my biggest takes here, and I think the takeaway should be that don't expect Al Horford to be an all-NBA type starter for your team. He's going to be the presence more than the player. But Moses Brown, I want him to get a chance. I'm excited for him. If he gets playing time, I really think that he could sort of develop. And a guy like that who's, physically gifted, he's long, he's 7'2", I think. Huge wingspan, can block shots, catch alley-oops, all that. I think you just got to throw him into the fire. I've been saying it about Robert Williams, for a year and a half. Just see what he can do. But we'll get back to sort of trade talk because I got 3 names I want to throw at you guys in a second. But first, I want to talk this move and not necessarily the players that were in this deal, but I want to talk about what it showed about Brad Stevens. Hey guys, before we get into the rest of the episode, I'm going to ask you guys to please head over to SeatGeek.com and use the promo code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON, to save $20 off your first purchase over there. Stadiums are opening back up. Things are returning to normal. Fans are in the building. Be one of those fans. Head over to SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code GUYBOSTON. Save yourself 20 buckarooskies and get back into the action. Live audience. Go see your favorite team play. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Go check it out. Promo code GUYBOSTON. All right, so Danny would not have done this deal. Would not have done this deal. I don't care if the relationship had soured or whatever. You know why Danny Ainge would not have done this deal? Because the 16th pick, the valuable 16th pick was involved. Brad Stevens says, 16th pick? I don't give a rat's ass. I'll trade it. Danny Ainge would have said, 16th pick, and held it to this high regard and put it on a pedestal. There's a difference immediately coming out of the front office here. And you guys know I was hard on Brad Stevens, the coach. Last episode, I told you, I'll give him the chance as the GM. I'll give this guy a chance. I don't know what type of GM he's going to be or president of basketball operations. But guess what? I'm pleased with how he acted here. Again, I'm not talking about the trade. I'm not saying they got better from the trade. But what Brad Stevens did is something Danny Ainge never would have done. A trade in which, the Thunder got better, but the Celtics may have gotten better too in the long run. They did that, and then they also traded a pick. 2 things. Danny Ainge would only do trades that he ransacks the other team's village, right? He ransacks their village and wins the trade outright. Danny Ainge would do that. And then he would never trade the 16th pick. Those are 2 things that Brad Stevens did. And it shows that there's something different about Brad here and there's potential. Because if you remember my concerns is that we're going to learn pretty damn fast if Brad Stevens is a Danny Ainge disciple and just going to kind of, follow in his footsteps, or is he going to do his own thing and shake this thing up and immediately he trades one of your better players, I guess I could say, and trades a pick that Danny Ainge, a mid-first round. Danny Ainge loves those things. So it shows that he's different. Like it's not necessarily like oh my God, he's a better GM than Danny. I'm not saying that, but it shows that we're not just going to have more of the same. So it's yes, Brad Stevens looks good right now. I'm not crowning him an executive of the year yet, but it's a start. It's a start to say, hey, you know what? If we're not pleased with this team, and no Celtics fan should be pleased with this team after last year, we're not just expecting the same thing. Like, come trade deadline, come the rest of this offseason, who knows? Brad Stevens has his nose in there, and he's going to be making moves because he didn't wait very long to make a huge move for this team. So I think that tells us this is Brad Stevens' team. He's not viewing it as, well, I'm just filling in for Danny or taking over for Danny, and I knew how Danny ran things. I'm not going to ruffle feathers. Brad Stevens said, screw the feathers, they're getting ruffled. Kemba, gone. Al Horford, back. Brings in Moses Brown, trades a 16th pick. So Brad Stevens is a little bit different. He's not just following Danny's methods, and that's a good thing. Danny Ainge, I don't think we can forget how good of a GM Danny Ainge was, really. I know he's only got the 1 championship to show for it. Injuries and whatnot, he probably could have had 2 or 3. if we're being honest, in playoff runs that they had injuries on or ended up losing in the finals. Like, Danny Ainge was an above-average GM. Did he overstay his welcome? Did he not do much in the last couple of years? Maybe, but I'm not ready to go down that road. All I'm saying is that Brad Stevens immediately did something Danny Ainge would never have done, and we're in for an interesting ride now because we have something different. We have a different mentality in the front office, and I can't wait to see how it goes. So just keep an eye on that. But I told you guys we were going to get back to some trade talk. Whew. Okay. So I said it. This team right now, that trade, you're not going to get that much better. You really aren't going to get that much better in terms of where you finish this year. Maybe you play a little bit better. Maybe you make it into the next round of the playoffs. Maybe you're not the 7 seed play-in, right? But Al Horford for Kemba Walker switch with getting a Moses Brown isn't making you right now on paper a better team yet. Something else needs to happen. And if we're going to go to the extreme where something like legit happens, I'm not talking, you get rid of Semi, you get rid of Grant, something that really moves the needle. There's 3 names in mind for me, and I've brought them up on the show before, and I still am confident that maybe one of these guys, at the very least, is gone by the start of next season. So let's start out because the 3 names, I'll tell you, it's Marcus Smart, Tristan Thompson, and Robert Williams. Names that, a couple of those guys you might be okay trading, one of them or two. Everyone has their opinion on these 3 guys. Let me break down each of these guys separately here. We'll start with Marcus Smart. No one wants to trade Marcus Smart. Maybe people do after last season, but true Celtics fans, you do love Marcus Smart, and you do appreciate what he's done here. But let me give you a couple reasons why it's not outlandish to think that they might trade him. I think he's in the last year of his deal, right? Where I don't even remember what he's making, 14 maybe, 11 mil, I forget. That would give a reason for the Celtics being like, hey, probably not going to pay him big next year. Let's get something for him. Like, if you don't trade Marcus Smart, you got to be ready to probably pay him, I don't know, $18 million the year following, right? So I don't know if I'm ready to say Marcus Smart's a $20 million a year type player in this league. I know contracts in the NBA are wild, but is Marcus Smart worth that? I don't know. The problem is that even with that being said, that screams, hey, yeah, let's trade the guy. He's not going to be worth $20 million. What are you going to get for Marcus Smart? I don't think he really has much trade value. I think that some teams would take him, but you're not going to get much for him, and that's the problem. I love the player, but teams aren't going to go and shell out for Marcus Smart. They're just not. Maybe some dumb team will, and, I look like an idiot on this podcast, and I have to womp the hell out of myself. But really, I don't think any team's going, oh my God, let's shell out. Let's dish everything we got out from Marcus Smart. So I could totally see him being moved, but I'm not sure you'd be getting anything for him, coming from the Celtics side of things. So is it worth even trading him? You're not going to get a player that is, equally, I guess, the offensive equivalent of his sort of defense and hustle. Does that make sense? You're not going to get a player that can contribute as much as he does defensively and hustle-wise on the offensive end. And if that's what they need a bench scorer, they need a scorer, they need a facilitator, you're not going to get a guy like that. You can't, I don't even know if the Pelicans would do a Marcus Smart for Lonzo Ball. I don't think they would. So you're not going to get this guy that can contribute in other facets of the game as well as Marcus Smart does, in the grand scheme of things on one side of the ball. So are you going to now sell Marcus Smart off at a ridiculous loss? Are you the idiot in the trade scenario? Because you all of a sudden said, hey, you know what? Marcus Smart, we don't want to have to pay him next year, right? So let's just trade him for, some nuts and bolts. I don't know if you do that either. You might ride it out with him. So my take on Marcus Smart is I could totally see him being moved, and he might be at the top of my list in terms of who I think might be moved, but I don't know if you would be selling him off at a low just because of a money thing. And I really would, this is how I would sum up my feeling on trading Marcus Smart. I really would hate to see a guy that's put everything on the line for the city. I know last year he, developed some haters out there in the fans, but I'd hate to see a guy. I'm trying to phrase this up correctly because I think it really makes a lot of sense. If this team were to trade Marcus Smart, and again, I know he made some haters this season out of some fans, but based on everything Marcus Smart has done for the city and thrown his body on the line and hustled, if they were to go and trade him, if Marcus Smart were to be traded because of money, I'd really hate that to be the reason. If you're not going to get value for him, I'm not too keen on trading him just because based on everything Marcus Smart's done for this city, I'd hate for it to come down to a money-based decision and you trade him. So that's where I am. I don't know if I would trade Marcus Smart, but I could totally see him being traded. Next up is Tristan Thompson. I can go over to this one quickly. I think a team literally would give up some good value for Tristan Thompson, but it would be similar value. And you guys know, I think Tristan Thompson was more valuable, and I think a lot of people think to this team. So maybe I'm, the idiot in the room here, but I do think you can get some value for Tristan Thompson. I don't think he's what the Celtics need. I do think that, I just think you have to bank on probably like a contender, because Tristan Thompson isn't going to be like this major piece for a team anymore. He's past that point. So I think if you were to get something for Tristan Thompson, it would have to be a team trading with you that really needs that, Pete, that seventh, eighth man that they're looking for, because I think he can be that. So you're really looking at one of the better teams in the league trying to trade for you. And at that point, they have the leverage, because they're like, hey, we're already contender. Like, you want this trade or not? So I do think they can get value for him. I think it'll be tough too. I don't know if it would put them over the edge, but I think you can get value for Tristan Thompson, even if it's a player-for-player swap. The last name I want to bring up, and it stinks for me to say this, but you guys heard me on last episode, probably on the post-game shows during the season. I could see this team trading Robert Williams. I think Moses Brown makes him expendable. I think Brad Stevens seemingly never really liked Robert Williams anyways in the rotation, even before we knew about the hip injury or the artery syndrome and whatnot. And now he's the guy that decides if Robert Williams stays on this team or not. I do think that overall the organization is high on Robert Williams, same with fans. So maybe I'm going a little conspiracy mode here, conspiracy Ev. But I do think that Robert Williams is a strong candidate to be moved. And why? Because out of everybody left on the team, excluding Jalen, excluding Jason, he might be the player that you can actually get some really damn good return for. And is Brad Stevens analytical, simulation-minded enough to say, hey, this guy missed so many games last year. He couldn't play over 20 minutes towards the end of the year. Like, yada, yada, yada. Can we get something for him? And I think you could. I think a lot of teams would shell out for Robert Williams based on what they've seen. And you guys know, I'm still in the camp of all those Robert Williams injuries. I hate to say it, I don't believe him. I think they're bullshit injury reports. I think it all comes down to his artery disease or syndrome in his legs. I think that's a huge thing, and he needs surgery, and I don't know how severe the surgery would be, but I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Williams is gone next year. I don't know if I want him to be gone because I love the kid, but I think getting Moses Brown and them making sure they got Moses Brown type thing, I wonder if that is in Brad's mind being like, hey, I'm not going to openly shop Robert Williams. We're going to see what we got. We're going to see opportunities, but this is a Robert Williams replacement if we need him. Conspiracy Ev is out here, okay? We're not going to act like that I know something I don't, because the only thing I know is that those leg injuries, it's more severe than people think. I don't know, and I haven't heard anything about them even really trying to trade Robert Williams or anything like that. It's my thought, and I could totally see it happening. And again, I don't know if I'm on board with that. I love Robert Williams. I'd love to go, all things considered, I'd love to go Robert Williams to Moses Brown. Like two athletic freaks. You can interchange them. Some teams, wouldn't be able to keep up with you running the floor and whatnot. That'd be awesome. But don't lose sight of the fact that they made sure they got Moses Brown in that deal. Why? Was it to back up Robert Williams, or is it to now make Robert Williams expendable? We'll see. I really want to see Robert Williams on this team. I want to see him grow, but I want to see him healthy. And if he's never going to be healthy, I would explore the possibility of trading him, because he's the type of guy that we're always going to look at and never see the full potential, and that's going to get pretty damn annoying. But anyways, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode. We talked about a lot. Make sure to leave a voicemail for next episode, 617-302-6363, the official Unleashed line. And make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. I apologize for the burn on my lip. Did I just make kissy face at you guys? Bye-bye. See you in the next episode.